Hello. Welcome back to the first installment, actually. So, welcome, I guess, of me reading the New Americana newsletter. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Annika. I am the organizer, I guess I should say, of a writing collective called the New Americana. To give you the skinny of it, it's essentially a writing collective where we are documenting the pulse of our times and what it feels like to be an American right now. So, all different kinds of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I'll link the link tree in the bio of this video, but I'm gonna make this a weekly habit of recording the newsletter and sharing it via YouTube. So if you feel called to stick around, clock in. New newsletters every Tuesday. So this one is from last week on June 9th, 2026. And yeah, so let's get into it. Gentle reader, happy Tuesday unto thee. Today is a very auspicious day indeed. The cosmic kiss. When you look out into the night sky today, set your gaze upon two of the great wandering stars. Jupiter and Venus will be conjoining in a beautiful celestial dance. Depending on when you're listening to this video, today is June 15th as me recording this right now, but Jupiter and Venus are still pretty close in the sky. That's what we call a conjunction in astrology, and so very, very lucky things. Focus on the good stuff, and that's what's going to expand. If you focus on negative things, that's also going to expand, so keep that in mind. So, this is good for manifesting your dreams, chance encounters, and speaking from the heart. Look out for excess, hubris, and big leads. I sincerely hope you enjoyed my co-star cosplay. So some brief intermissions, and this has to do with the New Americana as is. And so we are accepting submissions on a rolling basis. Writing something and need some help? Shoot us an email with your piece and we'll provide you some feedback and direction. Whatever you need in the moment, I am stoked to see what y'all have been cooking up. And so the email is going to be newamericana2025@gmail.com. Hope to see you there. All right, and then I would also encourage you guys to check out the New Americana Substack. It's just going to be Nueva Americana, and then on Substack, it should be able to come up. There is a dove with a Sagrada Corazon, and that's where all these newsletters are also uploaded, so check her out. There's also a New Americana Drive that is available, and that has newsletter archives, informational interviews that I did on the ground during the occupation here in Minnesota, some photos, essays, along with a lot of other fun stuff. So I would encourage you guys to give it a go. All right. So first and foremost, the New Americana is a writing collective. We want your stories, your lived experience, whether you've been on the front lines of a protest or your contemplations on a mild May afternoon. This is a gentle reminder that though there's a place for everybody's writing, I would encourage you to consider writing from one of these three categories. So the first one of those is going to be called Notes From. So this is a category for those of you who have traveled the world or simply have an intimate knowledge of another culture. Write about what it feels like to be an American abroad. Write about other countries that have faced similar despotism as we're seeing today. Write about the fragility of American psyche when stress tested outside of our borders. The study of the future is the study of the past, and the study of the past is the study of the future. There are lessons to be learned, so go forth. Category number 2 is going to be literary nonfiction. And so this is the broadest category that I anticipate that people are going to be writing from. So this is your poetry, your prose, short stories. We want them all. The truth is nestled into the stories that we tell ourselves to make sense of the world. If the New Americana aims to capture the essence of what it feels like to live on these streets and walk through our communities, a great place to begin is through sharing the stories we tell each other to cope with the noise. And so some great examples of this include Flossers by Avi Taylor, which again is available in the Drive, and then Mutually Assured Devotion by yours truly, which is also available on the Substack. Our third category over here is going to be policy and praxis, and so I affectionately call this Poli-Sci Kids Gone Wild. So if you're a policy geek, this one is for you. So they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, and that progress starts in the minds that are bold enough to envision it. So imagine an eco-brutalist infrastructure that's affordable to construct and sustainable for the environment. Imagine universal, well-run, well-connected public transit. Crazy things in the US, I know. Or imagine tax policies that get reinvested into the populations that provide them, in practice, not just in theory. Again, crazy concept, I know. Public community commons, third spaces. The list of possibilities goes on and on. And the wonderful thing about the democratic process is that there's a direct through line to be able to implement the policies we create. One must simply have the audacity and the connections to put words to what we know in our hearts as possible. Luckily for us, talk is cheap, and the new Americana has friends in many places. So, trying to get into the more just kind of like lyrical part of this, I encourage you to write. If not an elaborate policy or short story, then simply your lived testimony. Back in the 70s in Chile, they endured a military dictatorship not dissimilar to the tactics and rhetoric that we're seeing today. Forced disappearances, which is to say kidnappings, political repression, and suppression of the masses. Their path towards justice was hard fought, and I would encourage you to investigate on your own accord. But I bring it up now because they stand as a bastion of democracy in Latin America, with one of the strongest judiciaries in the region. And they arrived at that point by documenting literally everything. Every injustice, every affront to dignity, and the human rights violations committed by the Pinochet regime. The Chilean people knew that defiance has many faces. For some, like the students, it was loud and a confrontation in the face of their abusers. For the mothers and families of the disappeared, it was showing out in force, in the hundreds of thousands, refusing to let their loved ones' names be reduced to simply a statistic. To see their daughters, fathers, brothers, and mothers slandered in the name of state violence. And some knew that the day would come when justice would have its day. The ones who meticulously kept the score and were ultimately the ones who ended up being the arbiters of justice. Collective memory is a political tool. Right to affirm your place in history, and right to show what lies in your heart. All right, and then on the Substack, there are a couple different resources and further reading on the Chilean dictatorship, if that is something that interests you. So, all right, now this, if you're clicking on this video, you already know what this is about, but the anniversary of Anthony Bourdain's passing was on June 8th, 2018. And so, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to write a brief tribute to the late, great Anthony Bourdain. For those of you who haven't read Kitchen Confidential, or who aren't a devotee of his TV series like Parts Unknown, Anthony Bourdain was a titan of the restaurant industry, a writer, globetrotter, and a big personality. He got his start as a line cook in the restaurant industry and worked his way up to executive chef at Les Halles in New York. His debut novel, Kitchen Confidential, was eventually what shot him into the public eye. He's a traveler, he was a thrill seeker, an individual who had the unique capacity to sit with the weight of a country in all its messy politics, cultural conundrums, and language barriers, and come away with a sincere account of what he had experienced. I wanted to spend some time in this week's newsletter to honor him, as the anniversary of his passing was yesterday, on June 8th, 2018. They say that the stomach is the way to the heart, and I think that's why Tony did what he did. Not just because he was a lover of all cuisines, but I think he wanted to be in communion with as many different kinds of people as possible. I believe he was a complicated individual with a tormented psyche who was in search of warmth, belonging, querencia. Obviously, I didn't know him personally, and all my character assessments are but armchair analysis. But what I do have the ethos to be able to share with you all is how Bourdain played a crucial role in my own personal healing. It is well documented that Vietnam was a favored locale of Bourdain. Somewhere between the plastic stools and plastic tables, the sticky atmosphere and mouth-watering food, he found a second home. And there's something so intimate about watching somebody fall in love with your homeland, especially when your own contact has been so sparse, saturated with war commentary or the hypersexualization of our women. To see someone fall, like a teenager in love, for the very first time was a tremendously healing experience. So to connect this back to the new Americana, Anthony Bourdain's meditations on his own place as an American, as an affluent individual, TV crew in tow, is exactly the kind of reflection and introspection I think the U.S. as a whole would benefit from spending time with. There's courage in traveling into the unknown, and there's humility in the way one must comport themselves while being a guest in another person's lands. We as Americans, despite the many of us who are drawn to the foreign, are typically characterized by the fact that many of us don't leave the city that we were born in. the notion of American exceptionalism, that we have all that we need at home is but a shadow defense when encountering the other. How are you to know what you need unless you go out and see what else there is? How do you know what you don't need until you see how the rest of the world lives? To travel is to be changed. And to quote a close friend of mine, it is a kind of spiritual suicide, in a way. You lighten your load, giving away possessions, prepare to say goodbye to loved ones, and when you come back, you are scarred, marked by your experiences. You are rebirthed, and a new version of yourself rises from the ashes. Bourdain was not perfect. He was fallible, and he was human. Tony took his life on June 8th, 2018, and the world has been missing him ever since. May his soul be at peace, wherever that be, and may his legacy grant us the courage to transform into the versions of ourselves that we hope to see. If your loved one is struggling, please know that there's always somebody to reach out to. National Suicide Hotline is 988. Please take care of you and yours. Until next week.